Hello, my name is Farhad Javidi. On behalf of Persian Awards, جوایز پارسی, I'm in conversation with Miriam Peretz today. Hi, Miriam.
Hi.
Could you introduce yourself?
Thank you so much for having me. So I'm Miriam Peretz, a lifelong dancer, a lifelong spiritual seeker. Should I keep going with my introduction?
Yes, please. Please say as much as you want about yourself. I ask questions if.
Okay. So I am originally from Israel, Palestine, and have been on an extraordinary life journey to express myself through the art of dance. And specifically, I'm interested in sacred dance, in mystical practices. I have studied dance from every part of the world. I have tried on every kind of hat and costume that I could find from my youth. And probably in my late teens, early 20s, I was studying music. I was studying music in Oriental Music Academy right outside or right inside of Jerusalem, in a very kind of powerful place where the prayers of so many peoples and religions overlapped and mingled. And it was there that I really deeply fell in love with Persian and Central Asian music, dance, and culture. So I was studying music, not quite sure exactly which instrument. I played percussion. And what happened is I kept finding myself sitting at the door of the Persian music ensemble. And it started with me sitting at the door listening. It evolved to me sitting by the door weeping. And it was this process of my heart being cracked open by this music that I couldn't even understand because I don't speak Farsi. But the language spoke to the language of my soul, something so deep that I can't even express in words. So my entry into Persian and Central Asian dance really was through the music, was through first falling in love with the daska, with the musical modes. And it was like a feeling of remembering a past life, remembering my soul. And then I started to really get into the dance because I've been a dancer my whole life. And for me, studying music was how to become a more holistic, a more well-trained dancer. It's important that all dancers really study music as well. So at that point in my early 20s, I realized that the expression, the dance expression of Persian and Central Asian dance, and I'll explain when I use that terminology more, was the most aligned with my soul's calling. And all the other forms that I had studied were wonderful and beautiful and I loved, but they weren't aligning in this kind of very perfect way with my heart and soul. And at the same time, I also was very much intrigued by the path of Sufism and the mystical poetry of Hafez, of Mevlana, of Khayyam. So I was kind of also falling in love with Sufi poetry and the path of being a dervish, the path of specifically being a Mevlevi dervish, a whirling dervish. And the Persian and Central Asian dance for me was this kind of marriage of my dance practice and my spiritual practice, finally finding some kind of togetherness, this alignment. And one of the reasons I think is when we look, I'll use the word pan-Central Asian. And when I talk about Persian and Central Asian dance, my understanding is old. My understanding is Persian Empire, which encompassed all of Central Asia. And that actually is what is most interesting to me, is all of Central Asia. So Persian dance, Tajik dance, Uzbek dance, Afghan dance. I'm passionate about all of them. So if we look at the forms, their whirling is always this kind of central point, turning, spinning. The high point, the ecstatic point in many of the forms is the turning. So there was this kind of instant link for me between being a whirling dervish and my Sufi practice and Central Asian dance. And there's another really important nuance that I want to just mention, which is humility. And I was a flamenco dancer for years. I did so many forms of dance, and in none of the forms did I find this just beautiful practice kind of humility that I found the expression for in Central Asian dance. And it manifests in the most simple gesture of when a dancer might enter a space or a stage, just a placing a hand on the heart and a lowering of the head in the most small gesture, but it's so meaningful. That humility, that my body and my dance is an expression of the music. I'm here to express the beauty of the music and the culture beyond. It's not about me. It's not, yes, it's Miriam and here I am pretty with my costume, but it's not about me. It's about something so much more deep. And that really called to me and felt like an expression that could be authentic. And me coming from a non-Persian and non-Central Asian background, it's definitely been an interesting journey. And even though it's a stepping outside of my culture, for me, it felt so much like stepping into my culture. And I over and over say how similar actually Persian culture and Israeli culture is. There's a lot of overlap. I feel very comfortable in Persian culture, and my son is actually he's half Iranian.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So his father, my ex, we were artistic partners. Amir Shahsar, he's one of my good friends. We love each other deeply. We created beautiful performances together. He's a master musician. He plays ney. He is an expert in poetry recitation. He has a beautiful singing voice, and we created magic together on stage, and really had a very deep artistic connection.
That brings so many questions in my mind now that I didn't even have before. So I didn't know that you were married to an Iranian.
Wasn't married.
Oh, right.
We were married artistically and maybe in a soul connection, but
correct.
Yeah.
But being partner, right?
Partner.
And you have a son together. How old is your son? May I ask?
He's 14, and his name is Imani.
Imani, that's so cool. And so did you ever travel to Iran, or could you even travel to Iran?
Travel because I'm tainted by my Israeli passport.
That's so sad, right?
It's heartbreaking. And my son says I want to go and meet my family.
Of course, right.
He's lost his grandparents and he never got to meet them, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I believe it's the same for Iranians. They cannot travel to Israel as well. Is that correct? That's what I hear.
Actually, it's not true anymore. It's possible.
No, they can. I don't know if they can, or if they go, they can ever go back to Iran. I don't know. I heard some. I mean, this is just weird. These borders, that they have created around the world, which for artists like us has no meaning, right? I mean, we don't see these borders, and I really wish they could do something about it, because that's not correct.
That's correct.
Anyway, so did you ever had a chance to learn Farsi?
No, I have been horrible. I only have picked up words, and all the years I was like, I need to study Farsi, but literally I have been so consumed and passionate about my dance art work and for hours and hours. And I also have a passion for music and specifically percussion. So I think any time that I should have been or could have been spending learning Farsi, I have been studying Persian daf. And also other percussive instruments.
So how long you been in US? I believe you live in US now, right?
Yes, actually, well, since I was naturalized when I was 3 years old, and pretty much a lot of my adult life, I went back and forth between Israel and California.
So you were born in America?
No, I was born in Jerusalem.
Oh, in Jerusalem. And how old were you when you came here first?
3 years old.
3, okay.
So
and since then, so do you see yourself as American, or still you see yourself Israeli?
I am completely disconnected from American culture. I live in my own reality here.
I know.
I don't really see, I live here, but Here's a really good example. These things on my wall, this beautiful hitch and
Right.
these artwork, they're placed with thumbtacks because I don't believe I live here. I am temporarily here. It's also part of my spiritual path as a dervish. I'm traveling through this life, but I'm always a little bit with one foot out the door, and it's not. And I am actually. I won't go into politics, but I am not a Zionist. I am pretty on the other extreme. I'm very actively pro-Palestinian and don't really agree with Israeli politics. Yet, I have a connection with that land that's beyond kind of what's going on right now. I go there.
Which has nothing to do with governments, really. I mean,
Nothing. So for me, my connection is really just to the east, is actually being on that desert soil, hearing all of the languages, not just Hebrew, but also Arabic, and the many languages and traditions that are coexisting on that land.
did you study dance?
I did. There, you mean?
No, I'm talking about your life. Like, so let's go back a little bit to your childhood and see how, as you were growing. So you were 3 years old when your parents brought you here. You have been going back and forth, but you studied actually in America, right? You went to elementary school, middle school, high school in America.
Yes.
Correct? In California.
Correct. And it was during my high school years here in California that I really became aware that I was a dancer, that was my life path.
How did you find out? Like, were you in school performances?
So actually, since I was a child, it was very clear to me. I always did creative dance and movement, and I have always had actually a block for speaking. I'm overcoming that as an adult, as I'm called to speak often now. But as a child, I literally wouldn't speak. I was a very different kind of child. I would not speak. I would move my body, and I would express myself constantly through creative movement. So when I reached high school, the doors just opened really wide. I saw the dance department. They wanted me. I wanted them. It was like click. Okay. And finally, I really found myself. I became very confident in who I am in this world. I was part of the high school dance company. They uplifted me. They very clearly showed me that this is my path. I'm talented and to pursue it. So I'm really grateful for the high school I went to, for the experience. Every night of the week in high school, I was in a different dance studio, San Francisco, Oakland, Berkeley. I was hyperactive just every night of the week, studying a different kind of dance, including Persian dance. That's when I met my Ostad, Charlene Sawyer. I'll talk about Charlene.
Oh, okay, that's cool, because I want to talk about your trainers or people you work with. Good.
Definitely. So I started that. It happened in high school, but simultaneously I was studying so many forms of dance. I was studying Afro-Haitian, Afro-Cuban, West African, flamenco, Middle Eastern, contemporary, and Hawaiian, like all of these forms. So every night of the week I was in a different form and really trying to just find as many words through the body that I could to express myself. I wanted to know all of the languages of the human body. And it was only after high school that I left California and started to travel. I went back to my homeland. I spent some time in Spain. I spent time in Turkey, in Egypt. I traveled a lot and really opened my eyes. And it was a beautiful kind of moment to integrate all of the training from high school with now, who am I in this world of dance and movement, and what is the kind of the path I want to lead, and what is the legacy that I want to.
Right, but after high school, did you go to college for dance?
I tried, but I wanted to travel. My soul was in wandering, so I tried to go to San Francisco State for a year and study dance there, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't be in an institution. I wanted field work. I wanted field experience.
And you didn't choose any other career. That's all you were doing was just dance. That's what you have done all your life. That's so cool.
Yes.
That you had an opportunity to do that. Many people, just because they have to make money, they have to just, for day-to-day survival, they have to choose a different career or study something else, even though they love dancing.
I fought against the grain. Everyone told me that's not a career. Get a career, do that as a hobby. I heard that millions of times. And every time I closed my ears and I said, no, if I actually want to be a dance artist and lead this path and leave some kind of legacy for myself, it's only by 100% dedication. And I also clearly made a decision that I'm going to be poor. And it's the
Mhm.
honest truth. I don't, I live at a high standard of soul. But financially, no, dance is not it's not an optimal career. I will
Mhm.
not be driving a fancy car and taking
But
special.
you had a chance to work with professionals.
I've worked with some of the highest professionals, especially musicians. I have
Mhm.
worked with incredible musicians. I've danced in many companies. Dance, unfortunately, by most of the world, is not really considered a legitimate career that should be paid like other careers. It just, for whatever reason, I don't know. We are underpaid.
Hmm.
um, and there's some dancers that maybe become very famous and make good money through, marketing, through this and that. I'm also a mystic, and that's part of my path. So running after marketing and money has not been my strong point, put it that way.
I have some questions and that I'm going to ask later, but
Yeah,
let's just stay on the people you said you want to mention that you
yes,
work with. Would you
definitely.
please do that?
Yes. So during high school, I met my Ostad, Charlene Sawyer, and I call her my Ostad because she really was one of my most important dance mentors. I love her so dearly. And she's really a master of both Central Asian dance, but also creating a very specific niche, maybe I would say, style within the Persian dance world that she refers to as Neoclassical Persian dance, which I think is a really, yeah, is a good terminology to use. We also,
And what do you mean by that? Because I have so many questions in that area. I want to see that. What do you mean by neoclassical Persian dance?
So I think the word neo really refers to something that's new, refers to something
Mhm.
that's cutting edge, that's not necessarily following a traditional lineage, but
Mhm.
it's really kind of creating something that's new and contemporary.
So
But
what was the traditional one
right.
before that?
So when we look at this is actually that's a longer conversation. Let me try to just kind of skim the top of it. So
Sure.
Persian dance, there's different categories in Persian dance, and there's different categories in any form of dance. The folk form we can call the most traditional. Why? Because the folk forms of Persian dance have been preserved and maintained over the years, over the decades. Like the same Ghazamabadi, the rice harvest dance has been the same for so long. It's been preserved, right?
Mhm.
But as we know, classical forms or forms that are more artistically creative have an evolution and change and shift with what's going on in society and in the culture. And the kind of higher class of dance, I don't like using higher class. That's not really what I'm looking for. Um, Maybe it's more refined. Maybe it's for stage. Maybe it's for the
More
chorus.
academic, you could say.
Academic. Thank you. That's helpful. So
Mhm.
it's different than folk. It's folk dance kind of everyone can do, but this more refined classical style, I would say doesn't have a easy lineage to follow because of everything that happened in Iran with the revolution. So
Mhm.
much of art was kind of like, wiped away or put underneath or whatever it is. So there was a little bit of like a disruption in the lineage of a classical form. This is where
Specifically, we are talking about dance
dance.
because dance was mostly is one of those art forms that during revolution had to go kind of like under the table. I mean, just
Yes.
under the ground, right?
Correct. And we can blame Islam for that. We can blame the regime, you know.
We can, or I mean, there is no need to blame anyone
Right,
because
exactly.
what I say is a culture. I really believe the culture, we could talk about this without even needing to talk about politics, because as you said, still even in Western culture, dance is not appreciated the way it should be. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? So when people looking at dancers like that, and I could tell you, like in the last few weeks with some of my colleagues, we have been looking for better words for dancer in translation of dancer in Farsi, right? Any word, most of these words are kind of forbidden. It's some kind of like so low. You know what I mean? When you call the dancers raqqas in Farsi, it's kind of like you're calling them entertainers. You know what I mean? You're calling them, like a street entertainers, which is not. So when it comes to even academic dancer, could we have even a better word? We don't have enough. I tell you, it's mostly cultural, which again related to religion, because culture and religion work together throughout the years. But you're right. I want to just give you a little bit background about something else that might help you in this area. My understanding of like what Martha Graham did, right, to classical ballet dance, right? My understanding is that classical ballet dance was staying upright and always going out, turning out, correct? And then Martha Graham came and, broke all these styles and brought the modern dance. And she was celebrated by many, she was appreciated by many. I'm sure at the time she did it, maybe people didn't see what she was doing. And she lived 97 years and had enough opportunity to introduce all her ideas to the world and created the modern dance. When you talk about neoclassical Persian dance, are you talking about modernizing the traditional Persian dance the same way, right? Is that what my understanding is?
Yeah, I think so. And also, though, still very much when I talk about this neoclassical style that Charlene Sawyer created with Ballet Afsane, her dance company, there was still a lot of wanting to draw on tradition and draw on a very specific aesthetic that you cannot deny. When you look at miniature artwork, when you look at the Farsi language written, there's specific aesthetics. And she really integrated that into the form. So it wasn't like throwing out everything and let's create a new dance form. No, it was like, let's take all of the beauty of Persian culture that we can gather. Let's take as much information as we can from the tradition and make it relevant to now in some way, or make it a form that we can dance today. So one very important note that I want to make is something that she did and that I have continued, which is to look at Persian Empire once again, like expand the boundaries a little bit and not look to Iran of today,
yeah,
but
like
expand
Tajikistan,
that.
Afghanistan.
Yes, and what happened in those countries, specifically Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, is they were not influenced by Islam, they were influenced by Russia.
Mm-hmm.
Tons and tons of money, tons of support went into the arts, went into uplifting dancers, creating dance companies, huge dance companies. So dance was actually preserved, uplifted, given names, terminology, in a way that was not happening in Iran, completely different. So for me, again, this is something that Charlene Sawyer, I feel like she started, and I give her credit, and I continued it, which is looking to those parts of Central Asia, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, as inspiration for creating this neoclassical Persian style. We danced a lot of Fergana dance from Uzbekistan. We had a whole repertoire of Uzbek dances, and so many of the I'll just show so many of the lines of the movement. We could draw an exact tracing to miniature artwork. Oh, we know that position. We know that position. These are positions that connect. So the borrowing of other forms of Central Asian dance is kind of what happened in this neoclassical style. And it's important to mention, and Charlene also will have mentioned that she studied in Uzbekistan. She really learned that dance language, and that directly fed her creativity in the realm of Persian dance. And I've continued that as well. I studied in Dushanbe. I did an artist residency. I did a residency in Uzbekistan, and
Really?
really, really fell in love. Well, I fell in love with all of it, all the forms. But I'll say one specific name, which is the Shashmakam style. And the Shashmakam form of dance and music, interestingly, actually was preserved by Jewish people predominantly in Central Asia over the years, is a form that I would say is very Persian. There's so much overlap of aesthetic quality and movement. So I have borrowed a lot of movement from Shashmakam into my Persian dance vocabulary. And I tell my students that. And I have many students that say they're teaching Persian dance. And I'm like, well, make sure that you really say what you're teaching. Like, yes, you're teaching Persian dance, but it's also, it's like very inspired by Shashmakam. It's inspired by Uzbek, Tajik. It's inspired by Miriam style, which I also want to talk about, which I branded my own form,
You
Nava
did?
dance.
That's
Yes.
so cool.
Nava dance, yes. And part of that is also really honoring that there is traditional Persian dance, and there are masters of Persian dance, like Farzaneh Kabuli, like there's many Persian dance masters who come from the land, who are preserving the tradition in a very authentic way. And it's important for people like me who are not of Iranian descent to have respect, to have humility, and realize that what we are creating, what I am creating personally, is also my own fusion, is an integration of tradition and an integration of also my experience as a dancer and as a sacred dancer, as a seeker of mysticism, as a Sufi. My dance has a lot of layers, and I no longer actually say that I teach Persian dance. And this is very important to note. For a long time, I would list my workshops. Now I teach Nava dance, which is my own format, but I'll also have specific workshop topics. For example, interpreting mystical poetry, or interpreting Persian mystical poetry, or working with Persian musicality, for example, learning how to interpret dastgah, musical scales. But I am weary and careful to say I teach Persian dance because I'm not Persian, and because what is Persian dance? We have to really look deeply to what is Persian dance, which is a huge umbrella with many, many different strands. It is so rich and wide and vast. So this is something that
let me ask you something interesting. It just came in mind. Like most of, I have seen your videos, I have seen your dances, and you call them mystical. They're mostly kind of like, how do I say, mellow, you know, kind of like soft. It's not like jumping around, it's just, but we have dances in folk dances in Iran, right? That they are very active, like Lezgi, or, you know, the Azeri dances or Kurdish dances, that there are so many jumping, so many, or like Bandari, that there are so many fast movements, right? You don't do that, or when you bring it in, you kind of mellow it down to your mystic dancing. How does that work?
It's a good question. So in my training over the years with Charlene Sawyer, I performed for 15 plus years with Ballet Afsane. I still perform with her company. We did a lot of traditional folk dance. We definitely did Bandari, we did Ghazamabadi, we did Azeri, we did many styles. We also had guest artist workshops with masters from different places. I don't know if I mentioned, I also studied with Shahrzad Khorsandi, who's...
Oh, you did? You didn't mention that.
Yes, yes. She, I studied with her maybe for a brief period, but she definitely inspired me as being of Iranian descent, and really like passing along the tradition of both folkloric dances as well as classical. She really also has great terminology for talking about it.
Have you read her book?
I have, and
Oh.
I have it right here. It's a beautiful...
Oh, really?
The Art of Persian Dance. This is a wonderful resource, and I tell all of my students to read this book. She really goes into um, kind of history and technique, specific
Is
technique.
that the only book in Persian dance?
I have there's several others I've seen, but the only other one that I have right here is this one, Unveiling the Secrets of Persian Dance, by Nazanin Badai. How do you pronounce her last name?
Badi, I believe.
Badi. Thank you. Yes.
I think so. I cannot see her name on the book, but it sounds.
There it is.
Oh yeah, Badi.
Badi, yeah.
Nazanin
So
Badi.
this is also a wonderful book, and I have seen others out there. So where I was answering your question, I learned all of the folkloric styles. I don't feel like I fall into the category of folkloric dancer. I don't think it's my place to pass on these traditions. Again, also as a non-Iranian, I enjoyed performing them, being a part of them, but I think that my part um, of the passing on of Persian or Central Asian dance is coming from a more creative, esoteric, and mystical practice.
But when you still see those fast movements, do you take them in your choreography and just kind of mellow them and melt them in your choreography? Like when they do so fast of this, you could go slowly, to your dance, right? I mean, does it work that way?
I don't think of it in that way, but it's very possible that unconsciously, all of the movement I've learned and performed is inside of my body.
You didn't mention Indian dance. Did you ever practice any Indian dance?
I did. I studied Kathak and I studied Odissi, and I loved them. And I specifically loved Kathak in learning and seeing the overlap of Kathak and Central Asian dance. There's a lot of overlap and a lot of connection.
And I know that they have so many language in their body language, as you said, by moving different fingers in different forms of hands, and actually speaking with their movements of hands and fingers. Is this something that you have adopted in any of your choreography as well?
I don't think so, but again, probably unconsciously there's some of it. For me, what drew me the most was the devotional aspect, was the practice of, they call it pranam, which is a bowing, a prostration, an honoring of the divine. I borrowed a lot of that conceptual idea of pranam into Persian and Central Asian dance. It exists already. It exists in just that small gesture.
What is pranam? Could you tell me more?
Yeah, pranam means that the divine in me is greeting the divine in you. So like very simple, like if I do namaste, like this is a pranam, like I'm greeting the divine within you, within the space. It's a reverential greeting. That's the meaning of pranam. Yeah. So I was very inspired by that idea and really brought that into my dance practice in the Persian and Central Asian realm.
Wouldn't it be cool if somebody create a kind of like an international dance language, and like Esperanto, that they created as an international language, to adopt some from each part and just write even a book that this is an international dance language? It would be so cool.
I think I kind of had that vision in some way. That's why I wanted to learn.
Maybe. I think you are going to be a good one to do this, after all these experiences you have had with different parts. So cool. So tell me about some of your classes. I know that I have talked to so many of your students, and they always talk about those retreats that they have with you and the classes they take with you. Could you tell me more about that? I want to hear it from you.
Yeah, definitely. I just want to connect the last thought that I had on what we were talking about with where we're going, which is that, like, you asked about the folkloric movements and the dances, and I want to say that I very much have a niche, and I've had a niche since the beginning of my performing work with Persian musicians, and that niche was really working with devotion. And poetry. And every time I performed, I really wanted to do the music and the pieces that were the ones where you feel like your heart is being ripped open. I wanted to really focus on the devotional qualities and aspects in Persian music and dance.
Mhm.
And I, in the very beginning, really pushed the boundaries. And a lot of people said to me, you don't dance to that kind of music. You should dance to like the happy music, the rang, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4. I had a lot of pushback. And I just kept pushing that. No, I dance to the really heavy songs. I dance to, Nazari songs. I dance to,
Shajarian song.
Shajarian songs that are like, you don't dance to those songs. People said, don't dance to those songs. I said, that's what I need to dance to. That is
Mhm.
the expression of my heart and soul. And now, not now, but many years ago, I felt an acceptance. People were like, wow, this is beautiful. This is deep. Maybe it's not traditional Persian dance, but what seemed traditional to me, this is an important thread because it connects with the Central Asian, the Pan-Central Asian dance, which is that dancing to Sufi poetry is very old. And we see dancers in Tajikistan that continue this form. It's very common. And I believe that in Persian dance, it was a very strong thread that was just simply forgotten, lost. So when people say this whirling has nothing to do with Persian dance, I'm like, what are you talking about? It has everything to do with it. We just don't have a lineage. We don't have a history book,
Mhm.
because of everything that happened. We won't go into the politics again, but I believe that there was a very old practice of this mystical dance and this dance of interpreting Sufi poetry. I think that that's probably one of the oldest Persian dance forms. But
Mhm.
like, okay, the Persian historians might be like, "Oh, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about," but that's okay. That's my belief, my understanding,
we will
and I
bring we will bring some Persian historians at some point. Maybe they understand more, and we put them in conversation to
yes,
see maybe we could do some more finding on that. Saying that, see, this is very interesting, Miriam. Last night I was watching one of your students, Katerina Markievich. Okay, she was reciting in Russia, in Moscow, reciting in a poetry night, Persian poetry night, which she was reciting in Russian. It was translated, one of the Persian poetry from Nizami or Rumi, I don't remember which one was that she was, but when she was reciting, she was doing from whole heart. I tell you, in the middle of the reciting, I thought she's going to drop the book and start dancing. I'm not kidding, because her body was moving as she was doing the reading wholeheartedly, right? And with so much passion in the voice. But I noticed her body was moving. And I know she's a dancer. And I thought at any point she's going to drop the book and she's going to start dancing. That was so cool. That's exactly what you were saying.
yeah, yeah.
And that reminds me asking another question. I hear that, dancers like you prefer to dance with a live musician than just the music itself. Why is that?
Um, well, there's nothing higher than a live collaboration where all of the energy is right there. I mean, yes, of course, I think people.
Especially in Persian music, I'm sure there are so many cultures have the same thing, but I know about Persian. That's what I'm talking about. We have something called tahrir, means that musician or the singer has an opportunity to change if he or she wants to, right? And by the energy that they're getting from dancer, I'm sure they could, right? They change the drum beats, or they change the kind of melody, or they change the way of their singing with the tahrir that they do. You feel that, right?
Yeah, yes, definitely. No, some of my favorite performances have been with live music and have been transformational completely.
And since you brought the name Shajarian, I remember I actually have seen your talk on that. The day that Shajarian died, and it was, I think, the day after you had your class. And my friend who is in your class, taking your class, showed me that you started your training class by talking about Shajarian, and you asked for a moment of silence and just remembering, and you talked so much about him. Who was he in your life? What kind of influence he had in your
You
life?
know, it's fascinating because, again, as a non-Farsi speaker, his music entered my heart and soul without understanding even the lyrics. So many songs that I listen to, and really it's that vocal avaz. The avaz is the improvisation without words.
Mhm.
Many times it can be just the crying of the soul that Shajarian was so well known for. He knew how to, it was like he had the formula for how to crack open the hearts of humans, not just Iranians. Like he really, his voice cracked me open. And of course, I gave the songs to my Farsi speaking friends and said, please give me a wonderful translation. And then it went even deeper into my process and my choreography, right? Um,
Mhm.
but just the fact that his voice, without even understanding what he's singing, could touch me on such a deep level and touch so many people on such a deep level. Um, he was a master of alchemy, of really like changing people's states of being.
Are you
Um,
following his son? You know, his son was
oh
trained by
wow.
him, and
Yes,
his voice
son,
is so similar. And
so
but
beautiful.
he's entering a new ways, you know, and he's trying to break some of those barriers and kind of cross, and has been criticized by many. But he's trying to find, maybe there is a way that, as you said, come up with a neoclassic way of breaking some of those classic forms and frames. I don't know where he's going to go, but he's trying at this point.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. And I'm sad that he's criticized it all because tradition is always evolving and we have to
Mhm.
constantly also, being artists, we have to integrate the experience that we are living on planet Earth at each
Mhm.
moment with all of the beauty from our past. But to
And as
just,
you said, even crossing over to the other cultures and cultures that are very close with us, that maybe at some point they have diverged, but
yeah,
maybe we could bring them back together, but this one in more enriched.
yes. So that leads me to the next piece of getting to the retreats and classes,
Oh, yes. Yes, please.
which is I talked about my niche within Persian dance, which is devotion, dancing to devotional poetry, kind of spiritually seeking through dance. I created my own format, Nava dance. And Nava is one of my favorite dastgah. Dastgah is a musical scale in Persian music theory. Many times the spiritual songs, the songs of longing, are in dastgah Nava. Nava also means in Turkish song, sound, tune. In Hebrew, it's used in the Old Testament, the Torah, to describe kind of an ethereal spiritual beauty. Um, Nava also means something new and innovative in the Hindi language. So I chose this word because it's cross-cultural and brings many of the cultures that I feel connected to together. So Nava dance is very much an integration of my work in Persian dance and Central Asian dance. All of my inspiration from the movement aesthetics, from the spiritual practices, from the music. I took all of that inspiration and created my own kind of format that also honors my work in contemporary dance, in kind of understanding how just anatomically we work as dancers and really um, honoring the contemporary and somatic practices that I have studied for so many years. And then the third layer is spirituality. And in Nava dance, there is a very strong emphasis on spirituality. And we start class with a prostration, and we start class with an honoring of this concept of Hich, which is that we are divine nothingness. And through our dance practice, we pray, we have an intention to become invisible, to become really just transmitters of ethereal beauty. So
Have you heard that Sohrab Sepehri's poem that says "به سراغ من اگر میایید پشت هیچستانم"? Have you ever heard that?
no,
If
no.
you come to seek for me, I'm the behind the nothingness.
Hmm.
I need to write it for you and send it
Please.
to you. That's very
Oh, I will
beautiful
love that.
thing
I
that goes with that. And so it is the heart of meditation, right? The heart of any meditation is when they say start thinking about nothing, not thinking, but think about nothing. You know what I mean? Which is you need to be trained to understand what even it means, correct? And dancing is form of meditation, correct? That's what you are getting to.
Yes, and whirling practice is kind of the for me the climax, the essence of the practicing of Hich embodied. But even through Nava dance, Persian, Central Asian, any form, if we have an intention of really arriving to the space empty, whatever form we bring through has all the more space for being beauty, because we've taken out our nafs, we've removed our ego. And we remember that this body and this expression is on loan to us. When we really like enter into the dance space with that intention, I just feel there's so much room for offering beauty and light in a very transparent way. When the ego is in the way, when I watch dancers, I can kind of see if they're in their ego or they're in their other state. And the other state, the higher state for me is where we realize that all of the beauty and the expression in the form is a gift, and it's flowing through my body, but it doesn't belong to me. It's not like, oh, Miriam, I'm so beautiful, I'm so great, I created this dance, and no, nothing to do with me. I put myself to the side and I allow my body to be a vessel for expressing the beauty of the music, the beauty of awe. I think awe is a really important expression.
That's really good. In Farsi, we call it on.
On.
On. Yeah, on Javidan.
Oh.
I have a poem actually written about that. I need to read it to you later. About that on.
Please share.
Yeah, it's in a way you're saying living in the moment and embracing it all, and is the heart of three poets of Persian poets, Khayyam, Rumi, and Hafiz, and is just in the middle of that triangle that what you are explaining.
Yeah. So I think my dance practice is trying to align with the deeper messages of these mystics.
So you have your own institute that you are teaching dance, correct? And called Nava.
I don't use the word institute. I use the word form. It's a container. So Nava dance is what I teach. That's what my classes are called. So they're again not called Persian dance. They're called Nava dance. But in the explanation and how I give over the information, I always say my movement, the aesthetics are deeply inspired by Persian and Central Asian dance movement and aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and is more than when do you talk about it when people come to? First of all, let me ask you that question: do you accept different people from different background to come to learn with you, like beginners, novice, experts, or do you specifically ask for people who have had experience coming to you?
My classes are completely open. I will say that people who've never done a dance class that come to my classes, it's often usually very challenging. And
do you encourage people come to your class just to dance, to learn the form of dance as a form of embracing life and understanding life, rather than becoming a dancer?
Yeah, I'm actually right now, it's so wonderful that you mentioned this, because I'm really trying to actually have different tracks so that I can offer what I have to share with all people. So I have also worked on creating offerings. I have a different offering called Turning Towards the Heart, which is a workshop format, which is more in the realm of whirling and kind of mystical dance practice. But I really hope to continue to refine my offerings so that I can reach all people.
Correct.
Yeah.
And I mean, it should be in the way that I see that, it should be in a way that if somebody wants to come to learn from you, to become a professional dancer or use this academically, I mean, doesn't want to be among the others who have just come as a form of exercise, or, just having dance as a form of acrobatic movements, or losing calories, right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But they want to do it in a form that they enjoy, like Persian or Middle Eastern. But your other classes could be toward people who come to learn academically to their forms, or become the trainers for later, that they have their own dance classes, correct?
Yes, correct. I have also an online school that is, I think, kind of more in that academic, very um, kind of geared towards dancers who want to become professional. And I'm right now working on level 2, which is a teacher's training.
Oh,
And
really?
the teacher's training, I hope to empower dancers who not only want to teach Nava dance, but dancers who want to become teachers, and want to kind of create a pedagogy, want to create a
Hmm.
format that they feel really confident about. So within my Nava dance teachers training, I'm going to be offering 2 tracks, and one is called the community, Nava community, and one is Nava Dance Collective, which is more for dancers who want to specifically teach choreography, who want to really work with more professional dance mentality. Um, and the Nava community is more open for folks that want to study with me, but maybe take Nava dance and incorporate it into something else that they're doing, want to
Hmm.
learn kind of this way of how did I arrive at my pedagogy?
Hmm.
Be teaching that kind of very like basic, how do we structure a class? How do we empower students as teachers? So that will be more of an open-ended offering. And then I'll be teaching a more specific Nava dance training, which will kind of hold more to the aesthetics of Nava dance. We'll teach more choreography that's,
Hmm.
I would say, challenging. Um,
And interested viewers can find the information about your classes on your Instagram. Is this the best place to look for?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, Instagram always it links to my website, which is where everything
Oh,
is.
so you have your own website that they
Yes.
provides them more information, and we will provide all this information in the bottom of these videos that people who are interested that they could contact you, and if they want to write to you, they could come to your website, and I'm sure there is a form of contact. Correct?
Definitely. And I'm very responsive to email. I love communicating. I less communicate on Instagram. Instagram is a good way to just get inspired and see my work.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'm very,
Mostly from your the best way is your website.
yes, email. I'm very responsive to
I
email.
just heard that you had a retreat in Hawaii, right?
Yes.
Just was it a month ago or something?
Yes, it was just over winter holidays.
Okay, could you tell us more about that? And I have heard so much about these retreats that you really plan for them. And one thing I heard that they have to have actually a wardrobe and pack for the trip because every night you're asking them to have different maybe color of clothing. Could you tell me more about it? I don't want to assume.
Yeah, yeah. So, really, actually, one of my favorite ways of teaching is through this format of retreat or immersion, because we're able to go so much deeper into the practice. And for me, it's again, dance is not just a movement practice; it's also a holistic way of being. So we get to spend evenings together in spiritual practice. Um, we get to really like work on ourselves through the dance community, through this beautiful sacred container that we create.
So what is
So
a day like? Like in these retreats, how many days is that?
my
Normally.
favorite format is 1 week, is 6 nights, and it actually really depends on the location. So I teach a retreat annually in Turkey.
Oh,
Um, I have a new one in Greece. I've taught retreats in Spain and Italy, and Hawaii is now new. This is a new
like
one.
let's say on this Hawaii one, let's just start with one.
So
What happens when the dancers arrive?
when they arrive,
Yeah, where do they go?
well, they settle in first.
So it is a place that you have already, and I hear that you choose these places that they stay in. How do you choose the place? It has to have some kind of aesthetic or artistic
It's
atmosphere.
Yeah, it's a good question. I really use my intuition when I choose a place. I look at the images, and nature is really important to me. So I try to find places that I feel we can easily integrate with nature, with inspiration from our surroundings. So the place in Hawaii was gorgeous because it was right on the ocean. The studio itself was beautiful. It felt like a sanctuary. So we always kind of open with a lot of rituals, getting to know each other. We open with prayer and what each dancer is bringing to the space, both maybe the beauty and blessings, and maybe also hardship. We share our emotional landscape of where we're coming from. And I create a very safe container. So for me, the retreat is not just about dance training, it's also about transformation. It's about receiving healing energy. We're all wounded. We all need to receive healing. And I think that many of us come to dance practice because we want to integrate all the parts of ourselves.
Are the students are always or performers are people who come there all women?
Yes, I do cater to all women.
But they don't bring someone with them, right? They don't have a company. They have only them. And when they come, they have to give in to the group, right? Do you ever have newcomers that it is harder for them to kind of, they cannot suspend that disbelief and they look around and they don't know what to do?
Sometimes yes, but it's more rare. The people that tend to show up are people that really are ready for the deep dive.
Mhm.
And I really work hard to create an atmosphere that's very welcoming and opening for everybody. But of course, there's always sometimes somebody who needs a little bit more space, maybe is a little bit more isolated, needs kind of to process at their
How
own.
many hours a day do you dance
So
during
this
this retreat?
depends on the location. Hawaii, I called it a dance light retreat because I wanted everyone to experience beach time to really also enjoy nature. So we probably danced a little bit less than other retreats. We normally do our most intensive practice in the morning, right after breakfast, which is usually a 3-hour practice. It's very intensive. Then we have lunch, and then after
Mhm.
lunch, we go into free time nature. So that was kind of when we went to the beach. And then we'd gather in the late afternoon or evening, either to dance in nature or back in the studio, kind of in a more creative way, or sometimes in a more spiritual way, more
I noticed
prayer.
even when they were, I watched some of their videos, and I noticed when you are even at the ocean for, as you said, free exploration of nature, they still were dancing. Many were even dancing in the water, trying to touch water or throw water with their feet, and it was a still form of dance. They still were not out of that mood. Do you plan eating times, like, and what they need to eat? Do you bring a chef, or how does that work?
Usually, it's just with the retreat center. Whoever is hosting the retreat takes care of the nourishment.
So do they get experience, like, for example, being in Hawaii with Hawaiian food, or when they go to Turkey with Turkish food? Do you plan that?
I don't plan that, but it happens.
It happens.
It happens naturally. Yeah. And one of the reasons, actually, Turkey is very special because normally in Turkey, we are in a derga, we are in a Sufi lodge. So we have volunteers doing the food. It's not like a professional chef, but actually a collective effort. Often many Turkish folks will help in the kitchen with the cooking, and it's a very holistic experience.
And I hear that you do daily pictures, that one day they are all in white, one day they are all in blue.
This is not always.
No.
Actually, we did this in Hawaii. We did this also in Greece. There's beautiful aesthetic quality and a different energy when we wear
Mhm.
white and we wear red. So I have used that technique and format, but it's not like integral to what I do. It's not
So
like
do you
the
do you
color.
work with clothing companies, or when on your website do you suggest like this kind of clothes and suggest with the best price for this kind of clothes you could find them? I mean, why not? I mean, that seems
Yeah,
very
not at all.
logical.
And I get probably millions of messages all the time. Where can I get this dress? And
Yeah, of
could
course.
you sell these white spinning dress? I am not in the I'm not a business person at all.
No, not business. I did not mean that you make money. Actually, I was thinking that you're helping your students or, dancers. That
Yes.
I mean, you buy yours from somewhere and say, oh, that was a great value. Or I heard actually, I don't want to name anyone at this point. Later, when we bring you to roundtables and different events, you could talk about it. But some of your students were talking about that they bring fabrics from Iran, and they have people making the dresses for them in California, and they were saying that there are professionals in California that they could get these delicate fabrics from Iran and make these folk dresses for them here.
Oh wow,
that would be good. I mean, then I want to know, where are they? Who is this? So maybe we could do that in Persian Awards, to provide this information to the others. If you don't want to do that, because as you said, you don't want to. You would think that people think that you are making money out of them. You are making commission. That's why you're not doing that. But I think it would be beneficial in a way.
Definitely. I think the resource is needed, and I'm not the person for that. I want to.
When is going to be your next retreat?
My next retreat. So I'm right now planning for summer.
Mhm.
The past 2 years have been incredibly hard because of the pandemic.
Of course.
I have had retreat after retreat and performance. So much has been canceled. So much. Last summer,
couldn't they just make sure everybody is vaccinated and boosted, and then they provide the evidence that they have been tested, and then they come together?
It's more the logistics of travel have been really difficult and stopped people from wanting to travel. But this summer, my plan is to resume Turkey, which has been an annual offering. I have a partner in Turkey. He's wonderful, Alper Akçay. He's like my Sufi soul brother. We did this immersion 6 years in a row, and we had to cancel the last 2 years because of COVID issues. So this summer, we are like, please God, it's going to happen. We're really excited to bring our work back to the Dergah in Turkey. That will be 1 week.
And you would be, I hear that you stay in Istanbul for a few days and then you go to Konya. Is that correct?
So I have two parts to it. One is that we stay 1 full week in Yalova, which is a beautiful thermal village about 2 hours outside of Istanbul. There is the Sufi Dergah, Mutlu Baba Dergah. It's a beautiful, beautiful space that I have a very long time, deep connection with. So we're there for 1 week, and then normally we do a sacred sites tour for another 4 days, which usually is Konya and Haji Baktash, which are kind of the two, for me, spiritual centers of the practices and lineages that I'm connected to. So I'm very connected to of course, Mevlana and the Mevlevi tradition, which is, Konya is a center for that, where Mevlana's tomb is. And Haji Baktash, I'm very deeply connected to the Alevi Bektashi tradition, their sema, their circle dances. This is one of the things I also teach, is the sacred circle dances of the Bektashi Alevis. The Sacred Sites Tour might happen this summer. I'm not sure. I'm still waiting. But for sure, the 1 week in Yalova will happen. I will offer 1 week in Greece, in Crete, and then one retreat immersion in Italy, in Calabria. So this is the plan.
It's going to be a different one in Italy. In Italy?
Calabria, southern
Calabria.
Italy.
Calabria, let me write it down.
Very, very beautiful part of Italy that I also planned the last 2 summers and had to cancel because of COVID. So
what about men?
Men. Okay, men, actually, my immersion in Turkey is my only immersion that is co-ed. So men come, and usually, there's Alper, who is my partner. He's a man, but usually there's one other man. Musicians come who are often men.
I know, but I'm talking about, people who actually come and perform.
It's open. It's totally open. To both. Yes, that's my only retreat that is specifically co-ed. Women, men, all.
And no age restrictions.
No age restrictions. And this is one of the things that is the most inspiring to me is to have a very wide, diverse range of ages. And in Hawaii, we had that. Hawaii, I think the youngest was maybe mid 20s and the oldest was mid 70s.
I tell you, I feel already disadvantaged if I come, because I don't have the hair that when you dance, I see that you do that hair, then I don't have that, I see those skirts that they're kind of like so much cloth on that. And then when you dance, they move around. I cannot wear that, right? I mean, I feel like it has to be all the emphasis is on my body, right? I mean, no hair, no dress could help me because some of these dances I see, they are so beautiful with all those movement of the air in different fabrics that it goes around. But men do that too. In those old days, I see men even wearing those skirts, right?
Oh, yes, definitely. And
For that reason.
Alper, my partner, he has the most beautiful dresses. So
Really?
yeah, when he comes with his beautiful clothing, and we're all like, wow.
That would be a culture shock for some of us, if we had to wear those kind of dresses and dance with those hats, it's going to be funny. Anything else we missed that you want to talk about, Miriam, today? Of course, let me tell you this, Miriam, we have so much planned for you. At Persian Awards, we are really trying to connect the dancers around the world, right? Especially around Persian dance, right? I really wish to be able to soon, very soon, connect you with Farzana Kabuli. We have had her in our programs. I just love her. I tell you, some of her students, they were with her when they were 6 years old, some, and now they have their own institutes and they're teaching dance all over the world. I mean, she is such a lovely person. Haide Kishipur, we have had her on our program. I really want you to get to know these great dancers and, Persian dance assets. And I'm so proud today that I'm with you. I'm so honored. And I'm so happy that we have you in our Persian community. And I really wish to get everybody to know you, and especially Persian professional dancers, that maybe there is a chance. I hope this politics go away and soon you could go to Iran and perform for Iranians, or many Iranians could come to your retreats and learn some of the forms that you have worked so hard to preserve, so hard to learn, and come up with even new forms, new choreography. So we're going to have you on round tables. We're going to have in different events that we get together. But for now, my goal was just to introduce you and just have a conversation with you. And if there is anything that you want to talk that we missed, go ahead, please.
Thank you so much for your words. It means so much to me. And I think I already said this, but I'll just kind of repeat since you named these masters of Persian dance. In my earlier days, I was, yes, very important in the development of Persian dance and the spreading of Persian dance. And I have students all over the world that are also kind of now teaching or were inspired by me and teach Persian and teach Central Asian dance. And that makes me so happy. And I a little bit have stepped to the side because I really feel it's important for Persian dance to be in the hands of Persians. That there's a very, very important place that's been a little bit missing, and many non-Iranians have been kind of promoting the dance and the culture, and it's time to give it back to the Iranian people, really. So I feel deeply humbled to be kind of part of the lineage or part of this evolving process of uncovering this incredibly diverse, rich, beautiful dance heritage, both Persian and Central Asian. Well, maybe I'll call it just Pan-Central Asian. I feel honored to have been a part. I feel humbled, and I also just hope that anyone who has studied for me also represents in the right way. And it's important to acknowledge when we are preserving a specific tradition and when we are maybe in a creative mode. So again, I just think it's very important to be transparent with language and how we represent what we're doing. Nava dance is my specific offering. It's will be my legacy, what I'm remembered for. But if anything, the most important thing for me is that dance is a healing art. Dance is a way of connecting our bodies to divine source. And dance is a way to connect humans. It's a way to soften the boundaries and the borders between people of different cultures, religions, languages. When we dance together, we see that we are all human. We connect our hearts in a very deep way. And I just want to bless everyone on their dance journey, that dance continue to be a healing force, a personal healing force, and also a healing force for humanity, for us to really wake up to the great powers of dance, to bring people together, to soften boundaries, to uplift the importance of the human body, the aesthetics of dance. There's so much more I can say, but I just want to leave with that. May we continue to hold dance as a healing practice for humanity.
Thank you. Now I want to ask you my unrelated question. Ready for that?
Sure.
How many dams, water dams, do you think we have in the world?
Water dams?
Yeah, just like Hoover Dam. You know, Hoover Dam is the largest dam in United States. That is it between Arizona and Nevada. But how many dams do you think we have in the world?
Like a number, right?
Number, right. Just
10,000.
10,000. 800, no, 84, no, wait. 845,000. 845,000. First I was reading it wrong.
Huge number, bigger
No,
than
I mean, I remember first time I asked my wife this question, and she said million. I said, how did you come up with a million? And she said, I don't know, I just gave a number, but it's a big number, but it's almost very close to a million, right? 845,000 dams. I couldn't believe that 80,000 of them are in United States.
Wow.
80,000. When you think about it, when I read that first, I thought, this country is not even that old, right? I mean, it's like 500 years. In 500 years, they have made 80,000 dams.
Wow.
I mean, and I just heard, this is really interesting, that 65% of the fresh water that should have gone to the ocean is now being emptied by these dams. That's really cool. 65% of the fresh water that is kind of being preserved for human. That's really good, really good. And I heard that the Three Gorges Dam in China is being built as the largest dam in the world. Is going to be 410 miles.
Wow.
Think about a dam that is 410 miles, that is going to displace 1.3 million people. They have to move 1.3 million people from where they live to a different place as they are building this dam.
Wow.
They say, and China is being very smart on that. I really wish, we in United States start acting more smart on this. When I talk about 65% of the fresh water, that means they will redirect most of the water from different areas to this dam. And they say the future is one of the things that we should really definitely think about is water.
Yes.
And fresh water. They're thinking about it. I think this is a good message for us to think that way to United States or any countries that they really want to think about their residents and citizens, to think more about fresh water. Thank you again for being with us, Miriam. I was very honored when I was able to set up this interview with you. I have talked to some of your students. They have all great things to say about you. And I'm waiting for the day that I could bring you all together and we could have a great conversation. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. And that sounds wonderful and very exciting.
And thank you for being with us. with another program of Persian Awards جوایز پارسی. تا شبی دیگر بدرود.